right, so Shalom, family. How's everyone doing? All right, good, good. So, welcome to another Faithful Friday Sabbath Class, okay? So, now we're going to pick things back up in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 5, and we're going to pick things back up at verse 8, okay? The book of Ecclesiastes chapter 5 and verse 8 says, "If thou seest the oppression of the poor, and violent perverting of judgment, injustice in a province, marvel not at the matter. For he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they." So, and this is dealing with, of course, when you have an aspect of leadership, governments, principalities, you're in a place to where if you see oppression, you see violence and things, there's only a matter of time before somebody gets caught. There's a chain of command. Eventually, things are going to begin to unravel, things will be revealed. And eventually whoever is in violation will be caught, at the end of the day. It just takes time, for that to happen. Some people get away with things for, days, others weeks, some months, even some, years. But eventually they'll get caught. It doesn't matter if it's stealing, money laundering, or what so have you. Eventually they'll get caught. The verse 9, it says, "Moreover, the profit of the earth is for all." Now, that's something in terms of the profit of the earth, the things that the earth brings forth. It's for everybody. That goes in tandem or in line with the other scripture. The Most High, he blesses the whole earth. He does good for all of creation. So, and the scriptures say again, like in Matthew and other places, that he makes his sun to shine on the just and the unjust. So that's how more of the profit of the earth is for all. Everyone is able to enjoy fresh air, so to speak. It's only man that's polluting the air. So then you also have everyone is able to, enjoy fresh water. It's only through man that we're polluting the water. So these are things the Most High God made for all, for example. So the king himself is served by the field. So it doesn't matter. Even if you're dealing with a king, his fruits, produce, and vegetables and all of that, all those things, it comes from the field. He's getting it from the same place you getting it from. It doesn't matter if it's someone that sits in a high position or a low position. The food that they're getting is coming from the same earth that you on. So it ain't like they get their stuff exported from Venus. So it's coming from the same place. But of course, now, due to the destroying of the earth, now food is getting tainted, and now, you have all these different food wars and organic and non-GMO and all that. So of course, that's there, but in general, getting it from the earth, getting it from the field. So, verse 10, "He that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he that loveth abundance with increase. This is also vanity." So if you put yourself in a mindset, a more carnal mindset, to where you not only, and there's a balance, it's not just in terms of, oh, I like having nice things, that's not a problem. But when you start to overindulge in these things and you start to become more obsessed and driven to have these things, it becomes a center of your life, then even if you have an abundance, it's still not enough, because you attract other negative spirits, unclean spirits, spirits of greed, envy, jealousy, so on and so forth, to where even if I have all of this, I still want more. I'm still chasing, these things. So, and that can happen. You can fall into that place to where even if I have, and that's why it says loveth. Not just I like these things, but I am totally head over heels infatuated. I have to have it. Man, I can't get enough. That spirit will grow within you, and you'll be in a place to where you won't be as satisfied with having a little bit. So, and that's something that's a spiritual skill to learn to develop, to learn to be able to be satisfied with what you have. Like the scriptures say, no matter what state that you're in, to be content. Godliness with contentment is great gain. So now, moving forward, verse 11. When goods increase, they are increased that eat them. And what good is there to the owners thereof, saving the beholding of them with their eyes? Because you have a lot of times when things increase, there's a level, because eating, there's a level of consumption. Even when you have certain things that increase, it's some some things increase, but it's not long lasting because they just get consumed as fast as you get them. You get like, something simple like groceries. I get more groceries, but or get in a better space, usually affordability economically to be able to afford more groceries. But it's not always necessary like it lasts me longer because then I try to get more of the delicacies. I spend more money on delicacies that it still ends up lasting me about the same amount of time. Again, I get my funds increase. I get a bigger house, but I'm using the same general economic boat because now instead of me downsizing and putting myself in a more affordable situation, I upgrade my lifestyle, and it's like the same thing. Income goes up, and my lifestyle goes up to match. So it all gets consumed, so to speak. That's oftentimes how many people, live life and do things, especially with the Americanized mindset or first world country mindset. So reading on, verse 12. The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much. Now, when you have somebody that's working hard and they're able to get some rest, like man, and some of y'all know you be working hard and the Sabbath come, that Sabbath rest feel good. When you be working hard and you're able to get just a little bit of rest, it goes a long ways for you. Now, reading on, it says, but the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. But yet and still, because many think it's just beautiful being rich, it's more money, more problems for a reason. Now, when you get in this space and you have more, like it says, but the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep, because now you're so focused on how to generate more money and to make sure that all these pools and pockets of money or my business or businesses are all operating at maximum capacity. They're all operating well, and that's a big thing that troubles you in your sleep, that takes away sleep. You're not able to relax because you're so focused on how am I going to make more money? How am I going to generate and operate and make sure everything is going the way it needs to? So you're always concerned with investment, so that's a lot that can take up a lot of your mindset and a lot of your time. So whereas someone that, man, they're laboring, and usually when this is the laboring, they're in a place where they're not working your top tier jobs. They're not working, those, they're not in high position working some of those, greater high end jobs. They're in a place to where they're operating a level of humility and like, hey, I'm a plumber. Hey, I'm a mechanic. I'm working, and I have what I need to get by. I have what I need to get by. Verse 13. It says, there is a sore evil which I have seen under the sun, namely riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt. So why would it say that? Because that's a sore evil where you have people that they have wealth, or they have an inheritance, even generational wealth. Things that are saved or put away need to be investments that they personally made, or investments generation that their parents made, even grandparents, whatso have you. But yet and still, it's left to their hurt, usually because they don't have the knowledge and understanding on how to properly multiply those funds or continue those businesses and operations that generated those funds, and to continue to call them to keep going. So, or it's also a situation where you can have it to where these people, they fall into various sins and get caught up in various either sins, schemes, or whatso have you, because the money gives you the door in order to access things that without you wouldn't be able to do. And that's where not having, riches does some of us a favor, many of us a favor, because certain sins are out of reach. Certain, you can fall into certain vices are out of reach. So ultimately, helping to keep you more grounded, lest you start floating off and you feel like you're already in heaven. You feel like you're already in the kingdom because you have everything it is your heart's desired and wanted. And you can begin to neglect the Most High. So, reading on. And let's continue verse 14. It says, "But those riches perish by evil travail. And he begetteth a son, and there is nothing in his hand." And you see that. You see people, they gamble their money away, drink their money away, spend all their money on yachts or partying and cars or homes that they can't afford the taxes on, so on and so forth. You see people that they gain money, they can gain hundreds of thousands, millions, billions, and they can lose it very quickly. Okay, you see that very happening often with even people who win the lottery. A lot of that money gets poured right down the drain because I can have the money, but I'm not thinking in a business mindset or longevity mindset. I'm thinking about splurging for the moment, and hoping that the money just keeps coming in and I can just keep living a lavish lifestyle. So, reading on, verse 15. "As he came forth of his mother's womb, naked shall he return to go as he came, and shall take nothing of his labor, which he may carry away in his hand." And the other part, 14, the latter end, and it says, "And he begetteth the son, there's nothing in his hand." That's big too. You lost certain fund that you had, and then even though you have children to help further your legacy, you don't have anything of value, that you once had to pass down to them. Not saying everything tangible, like that's the only thing, but it's you had those things to set them up, for success, whether it's pay for college, get them all a car, what so have you. But now that's all been squandered and wasted because decisions weren't executed as wise as what they could have been or should have been. So now, verse 16. "And this also is a sore evil, that in all points as he came, so shall he go. And what profit hath he that hath labored for the wind?" And it said, "Isn't this a sore evil?" Because you spent all this time gathering, laboring, or fighting, whatever it is, in terms to acquire, this wealth, and you lost it. And all that time, it's scattered to the wind. It's like it all got poured down the drain. And now you got to start all over. You have to rebuild, and it's very, very difficult to rebuild. So especially the more you have and the more you lose, the harder it is to rebuild. It's not always as easy, especially to recover. So it says, man, that's a sore evil, because in all points, it says in all points area that you can, man, you lost as quickly as you had, you lost it. 17. "All his days also he eateth in darkness, and he hath much sorrow and wrath with his sickness." So he eateth in darkness. That's not necessarily saying like literally he's eating in a place where he has like no light. It's not always saying that. But when you have darkness, when you're in darkness, there's a level of obscurity. I can't clearly see, in front of me or my path or what's around me. And that obscurity is the same in life. You can be moving in life, but moving in darkness, not really aware of the path you're taking and where that's leading you. That can be a place of danger. Hazards can be there, but you're not aware of those hazards. You're not aware of those potholes, those ditches. Imagine, like driving down the street with no headlights on and no street lights. You can hit anything. So you have to move differently. So especially the more dark it is, you have to be very careful. And so you even understand like the law is light. It gives another perspective on that. If without the law, moving lawlessly, you in sin and wickedness, you moving in the dark. You could fall susceptible to anything. So that's a big part of that too. You get caught up. So now, Reading on, verse 18, behold, that which I have seen, it is good and comely for one to eat and to drink, and to enjoy the good of all his labor that he taketh under the sun, all the days of his life, which God giveth him, for it is his portion. Now it's like, don't get it twisted. It's good to have the things you can have to have a good life, to have enjoyment in your life. That's good to be able to have, no matter if it's little, moderate, or much. It's one of those things, a beautiful thing to be able to enjoy some of the fruits of your labor. Doesn't matter if it's something from being able to kick your feet up on your couch and just lay down, or hey, play a board game, or sit on your porch, whatever it is. So those things are beautiful. Or if you build something in your home, maybe you built a new deck, a new patio, or what so have you, just being able to enjoy those things. Maybe you built a bar. Those things are beautiful to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Now, verse 19, every man also to whom God hath given riches and wealth, and hath given him power to eat thereof, and to take his portion, and to rejoice in his labor. This is the gift of God. Even that too. Everyone doesn't have riches, but to those Most High, he did bless with them. Man, it's beautiful to enjoy some of the things you are able to acquire with the wealth that you are able to obtain. That's a beautiful thing. It isn't necessarily that riches themselves are a sin. It's that riches can open up doors to sin, But even with being rich, there's levels to it. So, but now understanding, it's still good for you to be able to enjoy some of the benefits that come with having an increase in economic goods or wealth. Verse 20, for he shall not much remember the days of his life, because God answereth him in the joy of his heart. So even in those situations, it's still beautiful, because you're able to enjoy, the moment. You're able to really focus in and enjoy the moment without as much regard to, troubles and things of the past. And you're also able to continue to have the good times rolling, because you're able to always be in a space where you can generally, okay, I can afford to do this again. I don't have to just look back in the memories in terms of, man, I remember when I used to have this, and people, man, I used to have these cars, or I used to have these houses, and it's like, no, I still got these things. I can still enjoy, these things. Let's get Ecclesiastes chapter 6 and verse 1. Ecclesiastes chapter 6 and verse 1. There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, and it is common among men. Let's see what this evil is. That's so common. A man to whom God hath given riches, wealth, and honor, so that he wanteth nothing for his soul of all that he desireth, yet God giveth him not power to eat thereof, but a stranger eateth it. This is vanity, and it is an evil disease. So now it's even worse. When you're in a place where you have certain things, you have riches and wealth, or honor, may build a reputation, but you're not able to enjoy it. You're in a place where you're always busy, or unavailable, and you're not able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Some live like that, and that lets you know that that's not as good. You want to be in a place where you can enjoy some of your wealth, not be in a place where it's like it's there, but like they say, they got time, no money, or money, no time. That's a sore travail. And then even worse, if something happens to you where you get into a bad accident, you be a sports player, you injure yourself, or you, or some, regardless of the sport, some people, fatalities from certain extreme sports and things, or, or certain businesses, certain things that allow you to, get money, but you risk your health in one way or another. So, and you're in a space to where you pass away or become significantly disabled to where I can't really enjoy it. and now others are left to enjoy what it is I have more than me. So you have that as well. So, that's another thing is also dealing with. So, and then of course also divorces. You acquire these things, you're married, but then divorces happen, and now all of a sudden someone else gets a significant portion of your funds. So that's another sore evil and disease. Verse 3. If a man beget 100 children, listen to this. If a man beget 100 children and live many years, so that the days of his years be many, and his soul be not filled with good, and also that he have no burial, I say that an untimely birth is better than he. Why? Because even though some of those things are good, yeah, you live to see 100. You had 15 kids, and but yet and still you weren't able to enjoy any of your time. You was always busy, always working. That's man, that's not a good life. You have people who, man, like even now, Sword Travail, you have people who retired now forced to come out of retirement to work. It's like, man, you put in a lot of work for years, and now you got to work some more. Like, man, that's a sore evil. Especially for those who had to work grievous jobs or a lot of overtime, or long days at the office, and it's not worth it. Do your 9 to 5 as best you can, and get out of Dodge so you can enjoy more of life, and man, try to work, build a community, get with parents, siblings, whatever it is, help come together so we ain't got to work as hard, or at least all of us ain't got to work as hard, so we can be in a better space. So, because man, it ain't worth it, especially if you weren't able to enjoy your time, if you weren't able to enjoy some of the finances that you were able to accumulate and some of the goods you had. Verse 4. For he cometh in with vanity and departeth in darkness, and his name shall be covered with darkness. So, because man, especially if you have a situation, some people have that where I could have had things at the time, and sometimes it's a domino effect. So I had certain things, I had a lot of children, lived long, but I was always working, always busy, wasn't really there for my kids. You have men and women that be their situation, and sometimes kids they resent you for it. Sometimes they don't want to be around you, so you end up still dying alone, being alone, because it's like, dang, I had, moms or dad, but they was never there. I never really knew them, never really built a relationship with them. So, they go away they depart from you. That happens too. You can die alone. So now, let's continue on. So now, verse 5. It says, moreover, ye have not seen the sun, nor known anything. This hath more rest than the other. So this is now situation where, and it's also dealing with two things as well, because it also deals with, in one instance, not necessarily literally that he have not seen the sun or known anything, but in a situation where some people, their whole lives are just centered around their work, and they haven't really had time, like, to see the sun isn't necessarily like literally, okay, I don't ever see daylight, but generally you're always so busy to where you're not able to enjoy that time out in the sun. You're not able to enjoy that time, out in the daylight and during the day. Where you see a lot of, especially you saw a lot of rich people, they able to, it'd be like Wednesday afternoon and they just be out surfing or, and doing things, or Tuesday, they just have to move. Like, they're able to enjoy more of the things under the sun. You have, some people are able to do that, whereas others, they've been spending so much time working that's all they know. That's what their life is centered around. They working day and near sun up to sundown, overtime, and that's all they know. So now, reading on in verse 6, it says, yea, though he live 1,000 years, twice told, yet hath he seen no good. Do not all go to one place and say, yeah, man, even if you were to live 1,000 years twice, 2,000 years, but yet if you're not in a place to be able to enjoy some of your time, some of your finances, it's like, man, it still ain't worth it. It's not the length of the years that's the biggest thing. It's the quality of them. That's another thing too. It's not just the length, it's the quality of that time as well. You want quality. So now, verse 7, it says, all the labor of man is for his mouth, and yet the appetite is not filled. That's another thing. A lot of our labor deals with things for us to be able not only just to eat, but to consume, period. A lot of it is to be able to eat. I need to eat. Water to drink, food to eat, I need to live. Me and my family, a big part of it is that. But yet and still, with all that, still not satisfied, still not in a place to where it's like, all right, I ate enough. We got to continue to eat. But then on the other end of that, the second part is also just consuming, period. A lot of our labor is for things that we have to consume, but yet and still, we still have to continue to consume. It's a continuous cycle. Verse 9, it says, verse 8, for what hath the wise more than the fool? What hath the poor that knoweth to walk before the living? So at the end of the day, it's dealing with, when you look at it from someone that's wise or someone that's foolish, it's really letting you know there's not always a huge difference, especially in this day and age. You can do foolish stuff and be in a great space, but yet and still be someone wise. You may not be in the greatest space. Your riches aren't always given to, someone just because they wise, and sometimes you see that too. You don't always have more, just because you're wise. You don't always have less just because you're foolish. So let's continue. Verse 9, it says, better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the desire. This is also vanity and vexation of spirit. It says better, not. Sometimes that word is just that. It's better, not necessarily the best, but just better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the desire. Why I said, because with my eyes, at least I can see what's right there, and I can focus on it. Whereas desires can change. You see some of the things you desire or desired, even if it was over the years, that's changed, So it's a situation where your desires can change, not only, just 5-10 years, but even year by year, month by month. I could have wanted to have this or do this, and now I'm focused on this. I want to do this. That's the desire, versus where with the eyes, what I see, at least this is in front of me, This is in front of me. I can see this clearly. So that's kind of the difference. So now, verse 10, it says, that which hath been is named already, and it is known that it is man. Neither may he contend with him that is mightier than he. So that which hath been in previous times past in history is named already, and it is known that it is man. Man has been here, man will continue to be here. Mankind, humankind. So neither may he contend with him that is mightier than he. So primarily in terms of fighting other men, it's someone is mightier than you. It's hard to overcome them in battle. Hard to fight someone that is stronger and more skilled than yourself. So on one end. On the other end, it's also dealing with, the heavenly realm with the Most High, Christ, and angels. We can't contend, with them that are mightier than us. On the other side of things, we're subject to this earthly tabernacle. So we're limited. So verse 11, seeing there be many things that increase vanity, what is man the better? So it's like, man, seeing with so many things that are vain, how is mankind the better? 12, for he knoweth what is good for man in this life, all the days of his vain life, which he spendeth as a shadow. For who can tell a man what shall be after him under the sun? 'Cause our whole life is like a shadow. A shadow is the image, but not the very essence of it. In our life here, because we're in a state of lacking the kingdom of immortality, it's like here we're not even able to fully enjoy life for what the Most High really wanted it to truly be. You know, Still in a place to where so many things in life we're trying to figure out, but we have a limited time to do so. And building the legacy that hopefully you can pass on to your kids, that hey, you can take from here and try to build upon what I started. So now let's get Ecclesiastes chapter 7, and let's begin verse 1. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 1, it says, a good name is better than precious ointment. So precious ointment, like some expensive oils, some expensive lotion, things you put and rubbing on your body. Even ointment, you can say even expensive medicine. It says a good name is better than those things. And your name isn't just, what we think of literally, okay, my name is John, my name is Mark, or what so have you. But your name is everything that you stand for. What it is that you represent, what it is you've done, the legacy you built, all that is part of your name. It's built all under that name. And that's what makes the name meaningful, so that when you hear, Mark, John, or what so have you, that, man, yeah, this is a great man. And these are all the things I can list as to why this man, or woman, or even child, is great, because the things that they did under that name. So, and it says, in the day of death than the day of one's birth. Why does it say the day of death and the day of one's birth? Because when you're born, we want to celebrate a child that comes into the world. There's a life. Life came, because every life doesn't make it, So celebrating that is beautiful, and the beauty, the ability to say, I have a son, I have a daughter, or being happy for someone else that now they have a son or a daughter. That's a beautiful thing. But you don't know what that child will be. That child could end up being a murderer. That child could end up being a rapist. That child could end up being an adulterer or fornicator. We don't know. But yet and still, we celebrate their birth, not knowing those things. But now when the culmination of those things happen and it's negative, then now it can be in a state where you as well as others can feel as if, man, it'd be better if this person wasn't here on this earth, because of the hazards, that they're unleashing and causing, the chaos and that they're causing. But at least when you have the day in which someone dies, their funeral that you go to, their funeral, you're able to speak the words about their life, what kind of person they were, how were they. And you really get to see, the culmination of this is how we honor this person, according to how they lived, and this person was honorable, So we can really see the end of what this person has become. So now, verse 2 says, it is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting. For that is the end of all men, and the living will lay it to his heart. Why does it say that? Going to the house of feasting or laughter, those are all things that are fun and enjoyable, but you don't get as much out of it. You just get the moment. But whereas when you go to a funeral, you're able to really reflect on not only that person's life, but you also reflect on your life and the bonds that you share with others, the communication, the time spent, the love, the admiration, the appreciation for others. You begin to reflect on those things more, because you realize, man, life is short. Tomorrow isn't promised. Am I doing as well with my life today as what I could be, what I should be doing? So that's why it says in verse 3, sorrow is better than laughter, for by the sadness of the countenance, the heart is made better. A lot of time we think the laughter is a better thing because we're thinking of just generally how it makes us feel. But there's a different mindset that comes along with sorrow versus laughter, a different level of meditation and reflecting that can happen through those things. That, yeah, you begin to reflect more on life, when you have sorrow. And sorrow, there's many things. Again, it's like going through, again, a lot of it dealing with like when you lose someone, yeah, you're reflecting on how impactful they were in your life, and how much they'll be missed now that they weren't, that they aren't there. And just everything it is that they did for you or for others or so on and so forth. A lot of those things you're meditating on, but, through sorrow. Whereas with laughter, all you think is like, oh, he's so funny, she's so funny, made me laugh, it's a good joke. But you just in the moment. It doesn't go too far beyond that. So now verse 5, it says, I'm sorry, verse 4. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. Generally, and it's aligning a mindset, one that can be more foolish. Their mind is going to be more focused on everything that's going to make me laugh for entertainment. Whereas a wise person, they're going to, look at things and focus on some of the things that it's more solemn, it's more humbling, it's more lowly, because there's a different mindset that comes with it. There's a different level of appreciation that you feel. 'Cause a lot of times you got to spend time reflecting, time meditating, and a lot of it is just what is your mind fixated on, and what are you contemplating, and there's just a different mindset that comes with each. So now, going on in verse 5, it says, it is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the song of fools. Why? Because even from some of the things like the nonsensical things that we like to watch on need to be YouTube or other social media platforms or just on TV, that a lot of those things aren't as, beneficial to our personal growth. But whereas if you have someone that's wise, that's trying to, correct you, regarding certain behaviors, mannerisms, how you're moving, that's going to be more helpful, towards your overall growth and development. And you can take that, and that can last you some time down the road. And you can reflect, and you can also pass it on to others. I say each one teach one. So now reading on, verse 6. For the crackling of thorns under a pot, so the laughter of the fool. This also is vanity. And it said, like the crackling of thorns under a pot. Well, I would say the crackling of thorns under a pot. So usually, you have something roasted under a fire and you hear the crackling pop. A lot of times it's just noise. Laughter of fool, a lot of times it's just noise. It's, yeah, somebody is laughing, have a good time. It's not that you're necessarily trying to, stop their mirth or their enjoyment, but it's one of those things where a lot of times it's just noise. It's just noise going on versus things that can actually be, a little more of sustenance. It says verse 7. Surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart. It lets you know for a fact. Surely, like for a fact, you gotta know, keep it 100. Being oppressed, as like what we are, being oppressed, that's something that even if you take someone that has some good knowledge and understanding, some good wisdom, it'll even make them mad. And that mad is twofold. That's both mad in terms of being upset, but also mad in terms of it can start to cause you to become crazy, and hard to rationalize your situation because you're saying so many things don't make sense. Like a lot of our people looking at like the criminal justice system, in Babylon, a lot of it's like you tell it's against us. It's biased, it's impartial, it's not to our benefit. So it you see different laws being applied to the same situation based upon the complexion of who committed the crime, the background of who committed the crime, the people. There's a difference. So those things are it's that's a oppression. Those are things enough to just like, man, I don't get it. It can start to drive you crazy, you know. And for some, that can crazy in terms of to the extent of even being suicidal or suicidal ideation. So, or being in a space to where crazy to where I want to retaliate. I want to shoot up, something to somebody because this ain't making sense. You can have that as well. Verse 8. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. So the first part, why is it better? Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. Because like you start a project, you can start, but can you finish? In the beginning of it, there's not really too much that's built. There's not really too much that's established or going on. But yet and still, when you finally finish a work, you see the culmination of the completed project. And I get a full layout of it. Yeah, you could start an app, but we haven't seen everything that it can be. But when you finally finish it, it's like, hey, man, this is nice. This go hard. This like, man, they do all this. This is beautiful. So you have something else there to be admired. So that's why it's dealing with better the end of a thing when you can fully see it come together than the beginning thereof when you're just starting. And continuing, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Because when you're patient, there's a level of reservation that you have. But in order to have that reservation, it takes a certain level of self-talk, a certain level of mindset, that you have to have in order to be patient and to have that control over your spirit. But the proud in spirit, and that level here, when it's dealing with proud, dealing with that level of pride, that high mindedness, that arrogance, to where on that end you're not really reflecting deeply in terms of how you're presenting yourself to the world or to others, and how you're interacting and responding and dealing, which could be in a way that can be significantly or very offensive, okay, and cause more problems. Need you be at a lower level or greater level? Need you be an employee or an employer? Just a congregant or a leader. It's still bad. It's just another position is worse. So now, verse 9, it says, "Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry." So you don't want to. In that hastiness is you're being quick, but in an unwise way. So you're being quick in your spirit to be angry, and it says you don't want to do that. As it says on, for anger resteth in the bosom of fools. If you're always quick to anger, you can put yourself in a place to where you can respond verbally or physically without examining the whole matter. That if you had taken some time and reflected or really examined, you wouldn't have made the choice that ultimately you made, because you would have seen that it was a mistake, it was an error, or I was wrong, and I acted harshly, or I didn't show enough grace and mercy in the situation, or I escalated the situation unnecessarily. So some people are quick to express anger in the mouth. Others are quick to become physical, and those things can cause problems both in the moment and later on down the line. Sometimes, man, you can lose your life, unnecessarily. Things that could have been avoided, you know. And of course, people like to say, all right, well, it's my time, it's my time. But the scriptures also tell you, why die before thy time? You can end your life sooner than what it was going to happen, because you didn't make wise decisions. You acted out of anger. So you let anger control you instead of you saying, nah, I need to calm down. I need to check my mindset, and I need to move differently. So now, verse 9, it says, say not thou, what is the cause that the former days were better than these? So what is this saying? This is where people begin to say, like, man, shoot, it was probably better, back in the time of the Romans. Man, it was probably better back in the time of the Greeks. It says, nah, don't start saying that. That's why it says, say not thou, what is the call that the former days were better than these? You think former being past, the past times. That back in past days, it was better than, what we're dealing with now. It says, nah, don't begin to think like that. Why? Continue on in verse 10. For thou dost not inquire wisely concerning this, because there's always problems. It's always problems. It ain't been heaven on earth. It's just at different times you had different levels of problems, different types of problems. And the reality is, if you were to trade places, them problems weren't always better. Them problems, time wasn't always better. It's just you had where you at because you learned to adapt to where you at. Other times, the issues were different, and you may not have fared as well with navigating the issues of those times. So, verse 11 says, wisdom is good with an inheritance, and by it there is profit to them that see the sun. Because that's letting you know something. It says, like, man, wisdom is good if you got an inheritance. Why? Because with that, I can make things happen. Because you can have people that can be wise, but it's not as beneficial if I can't get in a better situation to utilize it. Because the scriptures say, it's like, man, riches ain't always given to men of understanding. There's not a prize or a reward for being wise. Just for knowing how to move in different situations and moving accordingly. You don't just get something just, off top just for that. Ain't just like, oh, consolation prize, here you go. You finally reached this level of wisdom. You don't have that. But if you have some wisdom and you have a good head start with that, you have a good inheritance. You had, 50,000 left to you, 100,000 left to you, $1 million, left to you, or a lot of land, or, a successful business, then you can multiply that. You can build significantly with that versus if I didn't have that. Because now it's like, shoot, I have to find a way to get it. And again, working from the bottom, from the ground up, or getting out of the mud, that's difficult for anyone. You even had people, it was a couple people that, man, I gotta find them. But they do it every now and then. There's some people who, they attempted to start off like with just nothing, people who have money and things and wealth, and I'm gonna just start off with nothing from the ground up. And they found out it's much harder than what they thought. People like say, oh, you just build your way up and start from the bottom, just work a job at, Burger King, McDonald's, you just work your way up. And there's some that tried that, and nope, it didn't. It didn't pan out the way they thought it would pan out. It wasn't as easy to just build from the ground up. So, reading on, or people who, all I got is $10 in my pocket and I can, make it work. And they find out, nah, it don't work that way. It doesn't really work that way. So now verse 12. For wisdom is a defense, and money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. Okay, so understanding wisdom and money can be a defense. Why? Because it helps keep you away from a lot of hazards in life. A lot of problems be either financial problems or just sense. You didn't use common sense, or you didn't use wisdom in that situation. That'd be the other side of it. And it's important to fix both. You got people, they don't have wisdom and get the money, and they end up making foolish decisions and falling right back into them pits or them holes. And on the flip side, you have people who, I have the wisdom, but I don't have the money, and sometimes even with the wisdom, it's not always enough to bail me out of the situation. So it's good if I can get both. So now, this is the excellency of knowledge that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. But at least, with wisdom, it's able to give life, and that's on multiple levels. On one end, with wisdom, I'm able to preserve my life through handling things the correct way when I encounter them, to stay clear of certain situations. I can utilize wisdom. And wisdom isn't just cookie cutter. Wisdom is one of those things to where it's like that wheel. I have to select the right thing to do at the right time, given the situation. That, ooh, yeah, on here it was wise to do this, but ooh, now this time I need to select this. Even under similar circumstances, it's that's a big part of it. I got to select the right thing at the right time. So it's just as simple as I could need a car. A car got totaled. Sometimes wisdom is, yeah, I need a car, but right now I don't have steady employment. I need to, well, it's like, well, shoot, I need the car to help me with the employment. I need the employment to help me with the car. But it's like, well, shoot, I may have to take the bus to get a different job just short term, so I can save up more money or wait till I get past my probation. So then when I'm in a space to where I have more assurance that this job will be, on a longer term basis rather than shorter term, then I can make that investment into the car, lest I lose my job, get fired, or I don't make it past probation, they let me go, and now I have this car, but I can't afford, the note. So I have to be aware of those things and know when to execute, and that's knowing wisdom, just knowing when to execute. So what to do and when to execute. So verse 13. Consider the work of God, for who can make that straight which he hath made crooked? Okay, certain things the Most High made crooked. He designed differently. There's good and there's evil. So certain things evil, you ain't finna bend that to be good. It's certain thing. Nah, I made it what it is. You ain't finna convert Satan and his angels. It ain't finna happen. You're not about to teach a snake, to act like it's an ant, or a caterpillar. It ain't gonna work that way. Even if they the same color, with the caterpillar green, the snake green, yeah, but you're not gonna be able to get the snake to move like a caterpillar. You ain't finna convert it and change its diet and its nature. So 14, in the day of prosperity, be joyful, but in the day of adversity, consider. God also has set the one over against the other, to the end that man should find nothing after him. So, man, this is big. So in the day of prosperity, when things are good, yeah, be happy that things are good. That's okay. Man, things is going great right now. All praises. So, but in the day of adversity, also, consider, be mindful, and that's on multiple levels. Understand that God set one against the other. It's all both part of life, because sometimes we go through things and people, some directly but others indirectly, they want to blame God for all their problems. Not always understanding or realizing that there's a level of responsibility we have to take, literally directly, because a lot of the problems are our fault. It's us falling susceptible to our own vices. So, and we hoping God bails us out. And sometimes we have to struggle along, because the Most High, look, I just bailed you out. This one gonna be a minute. So sometimes it's like that. So we learn to be better and do better. So can't always just get bailed out. Sometimes you got to figure it out. So the Most High, He wants you to, all right, now you got to brainstorm. You got to think. Sometimes you got to make $1 out of 15 cents. You got to be wiser. So in other times, all right, yeah, I'll make it easy. I'll allow this to come through for you. Sometimes that happens too, but you don't want to get in a space where you're so discontent, you're blaming the Most High, or you're like, well, the Most High won't do this and I won't do this. It's like, nah, you still want to stay devoted and dedicated to the Most High through thick and thin. No matter if things are going great, no matter if they're doing good, no matter if they're okay or they're bad, I'm going to make sure I continue to be, not only continue to serve the Most High, but I'm going to be appreciative and thankful, for the circumstance I'm in, because it's oftentimes either a test, a trial, or a judgment, and either way it goes, it's based upon, the Most High's will, and what He sees is for my benefit, to help me grow, help me mature, help me be better and do better, and I'm worthy of such, So I have to remember that. So now, reading on in verse 15. All things have I seen in the days of my vanity. There is a just man that perisheth in his righteousness, and there is a wicked man that prolongeth his life in his wickedness. So you can have that as well. There are people literally who are righteous, but yet and still being righteous, they die, or are killed in some of the ways that you would think, like, man, you would expect something like that to happen to a wicked individual. And then likewise, you have wicked individuals, and it's like, man, how they seem like they live long, healthy, beautiful lives. You have that as well. And you said even that. It's like, man, I like even saying, man, I've seen that under the sun. I've seen, those types of situations. You'll see that too. And even some who, even though they're righteous, righteousness, it it takes time to build the level of wisdom to go hand in hand with it. That's why we're reading these books like this, so we can help develop our level of wisdom to go hand in hand with our level of righteousness. Because I can apply these parts of the law well, but then these other things in the scriptures I may not do as well as what I need to do to be successful in life. I have to start applying those things. So, and that was in verse 16. Be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why? It says, why shouldest thou destroy thyself? Some people do that. They become over righteous or over wise. They begin to go too deep. That's what a number of things. You'll encounter that, brothers and sisters, with that. Look on social media, and things can become a slippery slope. Things can be a tangent. It can go on and on with whatever doctrine understanding that they have, to where it's like, man, you're gonna find it's no end. And I give you like a simple example. They can take something like diet. The law is clear in terms of what to eat and what not to eat. But now they take it, well, dang, well, it's things unclean in this and it's unclean in this, and yeah, you find out, like the scriptures say in another place, the earth is defiled. The whole earth is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. So when you understand the earth is defiled, and people begin to do their research, and they get somewhere like in between and research, man, like, I'm finding out this problem with this, it's stuff in this, and yeah, you're gonna find out everything is defiled. And then it's gonna be like, what am I left to eat? If everything is defiled, guess what? You gotta eat what's lawful to eat that is defiled. Like the scripture deal with that. You want human dung or cow dung? That's the state we're in. Either way, it's dung. Or the other word people say, you want human crap or cow crap. Either way, you're eating crap. The earth is not fresh the way it used to be. Not only does food not have the same nutritional value as it used to, you're gonna find that it's like poisons dang near in everything. Your lotions are killing you. Your deodorants are killing you. Even the ones that's supposed to be better for you are just that. They're just better. So you'll still find a lot of things that are organic or healthier, or is just that, healthier, but they're not free from contaminants and stuff. You think, oh, well, I got non-GMO, but it's full of pesticides, still kill you. You're still finding all those things. So it's just you can become overright in certain things and go beyond what thus saith the Lord goes, and add all these other things, and begin to destroy yourself. Begin to destroy yourself mentally, and you can even start to confuse yourself and even confuse others. You just need stability through just what the word says. So, in learning some things with the scripts, there are some gray areas. There aren't things that the law specifically states concerning these things. You have to have wisdom with those things too, and say, okay, it's at the discretion of that household or that individual in terms of how they're going to move concerning those things that aren't explicitly stated or that don't have sound scriptures and doctrine to be able to say that, hey, well, this is the case. This is you have to do. You know, you have to leave it at their discretion. Don't try to, hurt your head or create doctrines just to fit, what it is you want to push because it's convenient or it's preferential. So these are some of the things generally to keep in mind. Pray that, most High willing you're able to get something from this, and, most High permit, next week we'll pick things up, continuing on in Ecclesiastes chapter 7. Okay. So with that, go ahead and I say Shalom.